Hi everybody, and welcome to this, the first in a series of videos all about how to create the spreadsheet that forms the majority of the evidence for Unit 19. That is the spreadsheet modelling unit. Now here's an example of a finished version of the spreadsheet. You'll see that it is a very complex spreadsheet. It's got a number of worksheets. You'll end up with at least 5, maybe more, depending on which grade you go for. The purpose of the spreadsheet is to help the college with applications and enrolments. And you can see that one of the early sheets, and we're going to cover this one in this video, holds information about contact details for students. There's a sheet which holds information about the courses that the college offers, and so on. And there's a worksheet about which courses the students are enrolled on. So quite a complex spreadsheet, doing a lot of complex work, but the idea is by the end of the creation of the spreadsheet, you'll have created a spreadsheet which is very useful to the college to help with dealing with the many applications that we get. Now, before you go any further with this video, it's important that you get onto the Padlet that goes with this part of the unit and study it carefully. This Padlet actually covers the next 2 assignments, which are very closely linked because they're both to do with creating the spreadsheet, the colleague Ceredigion application spreadsheet. So what I'd like you to do now is get yourself on the Padlet that goes with this part of the unit, and familiarise yourself with the learning outcomes here. There's a lot of them, a lot of pass criteria, and some merit criteria as well. No distinction criteria in this part of the unit though. Also have a look at the scenario that goes with this part of the unit. This scenario is a scenario that the next 2 assignments are based on. That's assignment 19.2 here and 19.3. So it's important that you familiarise yourself with the scenario. It's quite a big scenario, which is why it's separate from the actual assignment briefs themselves. Then have a look at the assignment brief themselves, especially at this point 19.2, which is the one we're going to start with today. But have a look at 19.3 as well. So stop the video there, get yourself on that Padlet and familiarise yourself with those first 4 resources there at the top of the Padlet, and then I'll see you in a second to carry on with this instructional video. Okay, so you should now have familiarised yourself with the scenario, the learning outcomes, and at least the first assignment that's covered by this part of the unit, and that is 19.2. And what you have to do, if there's anything you don't understand about it and you're looking at this video in a lecture and you've got some questions, then you can ask me, or just make a note of your questions and you can ask me next lecture. So as I said earlier, the finished spreadsheet you're going to create here is designed to keep track of applications and enrolments at the college. And when it's finished, it'll have 5 worksheets. So let's make a start on the first one. And this is the worksheet that is going to keep track and hold information all about students and their contact details, addresses, their names of course, addresses, postcode, their gender, and the status of their application, whether they're enrolled or not enrolled. So the first thing you need to do, the first thing I'm going to do here is you'll need to copy row 1 exactly as it is here, the column headings. Student number, first name, surname, address line 1, 2 and 3, etc., postcode, gender and status. Then what you need to do is change the name of this worksheet, which is currently the default name, which is sheet 1. Change that to students, because there's going to be a lot of worksheets in this spreadsheet and you need to be able to keep track of each one. So I'm going to go right click, rename, and rename it students. And hit enter, like so. The next thing to do is to begin to populate this sheet with information about students. And the first thing you'll want to do is to make up some student numbers. Now all the data in the sheet must be fake. You're not allowed to use any real information for data protection reasons, but it must be very realistic. So don't make up any names, that never works very well. Don't make up any addresses, and don't make up any student numbers. I'll show you as we go through this video. I'll show you techniques for coming up with information which is not real but which is very authentic. For student number, the pattern, you just have to remember the pattern of student numbers in the college. You'll know your own student number. And you'll know that all student numbers begin with the first 3 letters of the student's surname, and then 8 fairly random numbers really, although they do tend to start with either 1503 or 1603, and then a series of numbers after that. So you'll need to come up. I've started with just five records here, 5 students. So a student number for each one. Then a realistic but fake first name and surname. Now there are plenty of fake name generators on the internet, so you can find yourself one of those and come up with some fake names there. Try and come up with an equal number of male and female names. Firstly, for equality reasons, and also it'll make the gender column, when we come to that in a second, it'll make it much more realistic with a 50-50 split. Now, as with all of these videos, you can either go off and do that now. Some people prefer to do that. They watch a bit of the video, then go and have a go. I know that some people prefer to watch the whole video. That's entirely up to you. What order you do think? Well, the method that you use there. Obviously, you have to do things in this order, but whether you watch the whole video and then go and try it, or watch bits, that's up to you. And as always, of course, you can rewind, watch bits again, and so on. Now, for addresses, the technique for addresses is very important, because you want the addresses that the fake but realistic students, the areas that you come from, to very much reflect the areas that our students do come from. So what I've done on Padlet is, if you scroll down here, there's the random address generator link there that you can use. There's 3 maps here of the postcodes that students tend to live in that we get at the college. They're mostly from particular postcodes, but we do have a small number of students from much, much further afield. If I open up the postcode map for the SY region, you might be able to see here, this is the Cardigan Bay coast here, there's Aberystwyth, Machynlleth up here, Newtown, Welshpool over there, and Shrewsbury. And Aberystwyth is down here, and by far the majority of the students we get come from within sort of 10 or 15 miles. So they tend to come from postcodes like SY23, predominantly SY23 in fact. Some from SY24. It is the next postcode up to the north, but it's a very small postcode, so you have to bear that in mind as well. Some from the sort of Tregaron area as well, very much there. So you'll have some SY25s in there as well. But we do have students coming from Machynlleth, so there'll be some from SY20, particularly as that's quite a big postcode area. You'd expect there to be a couple of people from there. We do get people from down the coast as well. So you can see here Aberaeron is SA46, Newquay SA45, Llanarth SA40. The Lambton area is SA48. And there may even be some from further north than Machynlleth. We have had students from Tywyn, Aberdyfi, Dolgellau before. And even from these little range of postcodes here, from the sort of L44, 42, etc. So you should aim to have addresses predominantly from SY23, some SY24, some SA46s. Certainly we get a lot of students from the Aberaeron area. And then maybe 1 or 2 from further afield than that, the Dolgellau area, etc. So think about that as you're choosing your names from the random address generator. And as when you use the random address generator, it will give you the rest of the postcode, because of course postcodes aren't just SY23. There's another 3 letters and numbers after that. So you can see here I've started to find addresses in realistic sort of postcode areas. Some lots of SY23s in there, and some LL40s from further up the coast as well. And if I put in all the students that I'm going to have in this spreadsheet when it's finished, well, I've added those in. You should go down at least as far as row 26. So let me make column E a bit wider there, because it's quite a big address line too, and that all the information in each cell should be available. If I now actually put these in order of postcode just for a second, like so, you can see that pattern there. We get a lot of students from SY23, which is Aberystwyth. This student that created this data haven't got any from SY24. That is quite a small postcode area. I would suggest you do put at least one student in from SY24. That's the sort of Talabont area. Some SY20s there, which is SY20. Yeah, oh, that's the Machynlleth area there. Yeah, so that's you get a lot of students from that sort of area. Yeah. SA46 then is more sort of down the coast. That's the Abereiron and further sort of area, and then we've got some from that little strip up the coast, Tywin and that sort of area there. So that's the kind of mix you should be looking for. I'll just take that out of sorted by postcode area now. So there's my my fake but realistic student numbers, my fake but realistic first names and surnames that I've got from the internet there, with a mix of males and females in there. Address line 1, 2, 3, and the postcode I've got from the random address generator. So this is what your spreadsheet will look like at this point. So if you want to have a go and have a go at that, then you can do that now, or carry on watching the video and then go and have a go afterwards. So the next column in this first worksheet, the student's worksheet, is gender. Now if you've created an equal mix of males and females here, then this shouldn't be too much of a problem. But what we want to do is we want to make life easy for people that are going to be entering data in this worksheet and in the whole spreadsheet. That's a general rule as a whole, really, is you want to always make life as easy as possible for the people that are going to be entering data. And it can be a bit of a job to put this person's female, Sylvia, I think there. Female, and then another female there. And it takes a while to do this. Another female there, another female, and then we get to a male. So I'm going to use a feature called data validation for this. Now, we're going to see a lot of data validation in this spreadsheet over these next two assignments. And there are many different ways in which data validation is used. But one of the great things you can do with data validation is you can create drop-down lists to people to choose from. It's a great thing because it speeds things up. You just choose from a list whether it's male or female. And also it makes sure that you're only allowed to choose male or female. You can't choose anything else. So it narrows down the choice of inputs that your user can actually choose from. It stops people spelling things wrong. Obviously that's not important here so much, but it's a very powerful technique to allow your users to choose from a drop-down list. And they're very easy to make. I'll show you how to make one now. First, make sure you have the cell selected where you want to create your first drop-down list. Once we've created it in that cell, we can auto-fill it down. So I'm clicking on H2 here. And then in an unused part of the spreadsheet, there's not going to be anything further over than column I here. So somewhere around about here, you make a list of the items that are going to make up the drop-down list. So in this case, it's just an M and an F, like that. If you had any other options, you'd then go further down. If you had other options there, but we've just got male and female here. And then click back on the cell where you want the drop-down list to go. And I'm looking for the data validation feature. So I'm in the data ribbon here. And data validation here, and I go data validation and data validation again. And you get the data validation dialog box. By default, all the cells are set to allow any value to be typed in. And that will do exactly that. Your users can type anything in that they want. But sometimes you don't want that. Like here, you just want to give them the choice of either male or female and nothing else. So change that to list. We're going to allow them to choose only from a list. And I'm going down to the box that says source here. And I'm going to, this is where you tell the spreadsheet where the items are that are going to form that list. And then, so I'm clicking in source there, and then I'm selecting the M and the F that I created over there just now. Click OK. See what's appeared here is a little drop-down list, and we can choose from M or F. All you need to do then is copy that down to all the other cells, and then any that aren't female, like Ryan there in row 6, you can change him to M. And it speeds up the whole thing. And also, of course, it limits the entries that can be placed in each cell. And that's why it's part of data validation, because the whole idea of data validation is that you only allow certain values to be allowed in a cell. So that's gender sorted there very quickly and very easily. So the next step and the final thing in this first worksheet is the status column. Now, there are only going to be two status that a student can have, and that is either enrolled or not enrolled. So again, this is a very good job for data validation. We're going to create a drop-down list, which will speed things up and also make sure that the user of the spreadsheet, the user of this worksheet, can only choose from those two options and not any others, because there are only two options here. So it's the same sort of thing again. I'm going to go to an area of the worksheet where there isn't going to be anything, and I'm going to type enrolled and not enrolled. I click in the first cell where I want this drop-down list to appear, and it's then data ribbon, data validation again. At the moment it's any value. Change that to list. Source then will be those two cells there. Click OK, and there's your two choices. What you can do here is you can either copy and paste, or rather autofill that down there, and you will get a drop-down list in each cell. But for example, if you think that more people are going to be enrolled than not enrolled, you can change that to enrolled now and copy that down, and then just change the ones that are not enrolled accordingly, like that. Or even if it's maybe early in the enrollment process and you think that most students are going to be not enrolled at this point, you can change it not enrolled, then copy it down, and then just change the ones that are enrolled. That's probably the most likely one, because people start off not enrolled and then become enrolled, don't they, generally? So that's probably the most sensible one there. So those last two columns there, gender and status, make very good use of data validation to create drop-down lists. Okay, now the final thing to do on this worksheet is to use something called conditional formatting to create this effect that you see here, which is that I've made it so that the status column will automatically change colour from pink to green when the student becomes enrolled. So until they're enrolled, the status is pink, and then when they enroll, it automatically changes to green. Very useful then. So at a glance, you can see how many you've got enrolled and how many are not enrolled. I'll show you how we do that now. So I've removed the conditional formatting there, and this is how you add it in. Highlight all the cells, and you pretty much keep them highlighted for the whole of this process. Don't make it difficult for yourself by clicking off somewhere halfway through. You don't need to. Leave them highlighted like that. And then you need the home ribbon, and you'll see about halfway along the home ribbon is the conditional formatting feature. What conditional formatting means is that the formatting of a cell, that is the colour of it, the colour of the background, the colour of the text, whether it's bold, underlined, etc., changes depending on what's in the cell. The formatting is conditional on the contents of the cell. So for example, in this case, the colour of the cell, the background colour, depends on what's in the cell, whether it says enrolled or not enrolled. So I'm going conditional formatting, highlight cell rules. There's lots of it's a very powerful technique, conditional formatting. You can play around with it yourself, maybe there's plenty on YouTube as well, but the feature we're going to use here is to go highlight cell rules equal to. The first thing I'm going to do is tell it to look for cells that contain not enrolled and make them light red fill with dark red text, which is the default. That makes sense because not enrolled is a situation that you want to change, so it'll flag it up as being slightly danger sort of thing, get this student enrolled. So I'm going to type in here not enrolled, and as I get towards the end of this phrase, you can see that we get the preview there. It's a sort of a live preview. It's actually showing us that it is working there. The cells, and only the cells with not enrolled in, have got the light fill with the red text. So click OK. Don't unhighlight the cells there, because we're going to do the opposite there, which is to make sure the cells that contain the word enrolled are green. So I'm going to go conditional format again, highlight cell rules equal to. This time I'm going to type enrolled. You have to get the spelling right here, otherwise it won't find it. Change this time to green fill with dark green text. You can see you get the live preview there. You can see that that's worked. Click OK. At this point you can then click off and see if it's worked. and it has. And let's test it as well. If I change the contents using the drop-down list to not enrolled, then the colour changes automatically. And that's an example of that very powerful technique called conditional formatting. And that's this worksheet finished, and that's the end of this video. So if you think you're ready to have a go, do that now, or if you've been working on it as we've been going along, then well done. If not, have another look at the video, rewind, pause, etc. So thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you on the next one.